What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 732 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags edition of the week. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And Rob DeFelice.
Hey.
And of course, all of you that are listening are part of the program as well, so you should always tell us what you think about all these topics in whatever fashion it is that you're listening to us. There's all sorts of ways for you to leave a comment on places, or tweet at us, or post stuff on Facebook or smarkoutmoment.com, whatever it might be. If you are, of course, on our Discord channel, then, of course, chat it up there. Still want to do more with that in lots of different spaces, and the more people that we get on there, then the more that there's motivation to maybe do like some special recordings or to, have some watch-alongs in there or anything like that. So come all, join on that, have some fun. If you're on YouTube, then make sure that you also hit the like button while you're leaving your comment and pass this along with the share button, subscribe if you are not already on the subscription of that. And you should also join the YouTube channel membership if you got a little spare change, you want to help us out, and you want to get access to things like the Darkcasts and take advantage of the Pick Your Poison and all. Patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment is exactly the same. So if you're more into the Patreon side of things, then that's another means for you to do that. Thanks button is also a little tip jar, same thing as the super chats. And keep in mind that we will be going live tomorrow night after WWE Saturday night's main event to talk about whatever happens there. And of course, Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can pick up your merchandise if you're interested in that. So, out of the way, we got some hot tags to talk about. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of the whole podcast. If we didn't, then it would just be like, all right, we'll see you later, everybody. But this is an edition that has quite a bit of a handful of topics that are just, sort of lumped together. And some of them are complaints for me. Some of them are updates on stories we've talked about before. And some of them are just completely out of the blue stories. So, strap yourselves in. One of the things that I want to get into first, just because it's kind of just out there and I don't really know a transition for any of these kind of things, is the updated Street Fighter discussion. Now, you might be wondering why Street Fighter? Well, that's because Cody Rhodes is in the film as Guile, and Roman Reigns is Akuma, and Hirooki Goto from New Japan is E Honda. And they put a trailer out. They've got some character profiles, so I'm sending it in the group chat right now of the pictures of those three. Since, like Chun-Li and, David Dastmalchian as and Bison and stuff aren't really relevant to the pro wrestling discussion. But we got our first look at Goto as E Honda and Cody as Guile and Roman as Akuma. And I'm not too familiar with Akuma. So as I had said this before when we were talking about that the last time, to me, that just, looks kind of like from what I'm aware of. E Honda looks like E Honda, and Cody Rhodes looks fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, the only reason you're saying that is because it looks just like Cody Rhodes.
It's Cody Rhodes with a really weird wig that nobody should ever wear.
But I think it looks good.
I mean, he had to have that hair, because if you didn't, it would be like, well, that doesn't look like Guile. But man, when I saw that in action, I was like, oh no.
Roman looks pretty good. If anything, you might know Akuma best from his appearances in X-Men versus Street Fighter and X-Men Children of the Atom. If you played those games, Tony.
I don't think I did.
And Hirooki Goto looks great as Honda. He looks tremendous.
Callum, you're not a big Street Fighter fan, right? I think you had said that before.
No.
What do you think about are you familiar with the characters, though?
Nope.
Oh.
Okay.
So I watched the trailer. I think I'm a little higher on it than you are. I think it'll be fun.
Oh, it'll be fun. Yeah. It's going to be like schlock. It's nonsense, and the fight sequences look like they could be kind of cool and everything. I'm not going to go into that movie expecting it to be anything other than some kind of put it on, throw popcorn in my face, and laugh at stupid moments kind of thing. And spoiler alert for the beginning of the year posts that I do. I already did my 6 flicks picks on Fanboys Anonymous for the year. And if anybody's unaware, first off, go to fanboysanonymous.com. That's kind of the whole thing. But something that I used to do every month a couple years ago was 6 flicks picks, and it was if I could only see, or if I had to see, if I'm not interested in seeing 6 movies per month, which ones would I pick? It was basically a means for me to put out like the movie release schedule, then just like have some editorialization in it. And it got to the point where I don't do it anymore, other than the one time of the year. But I always did a January 1st. If I could only see 6 movies the entire year, what would it be? And Street Fighter came up pretty high up on the list. And I might have to lower it before I publish it based off of the thing. But the way that I had put it down there is both Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat are in the top 6, as in, I'm not particularly interested in this for like an award ceremony side of things. But I mean, my experience with the first Mortal Kombat of the most recent series was a lot of fun. It was, ridiculous. So I enjoyed that, and I figured,
we watched that with Caroline over on Fanboys Anonymous.
Yep, there's a fan tracks about that where among the best moments was the fucking whoops.
Fucking it was. So Mortal Kombat coming out in May, Street Fighter coming out in October. Missed the chance to do it same day, make these 2 franchises duke it out one more time, but I think both will be fun. I think this will be more fun for me just because it's got the wrestlers in it.
Yeah, I mean, I was always more of a Street Fighter guy than a Mortal Kombat guy. So if you're going to tell me that there's those 2 movies coming out, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards Street Fighter, unless it's just one of them just happens to have a trailer or something like that. But I am laughing at Cody's hair in this, because it's just, there's got to be a way that they could have done it that didn't look as ridiculous, but they didn't. And I think that they went full blown ridiculous because they were just like, screw it, let's just be like silly.
And it's more fun that way. It's Street Fighter.
It's nobody's going to be nominating the, well, let's put it this way. Nobody in their right mind is going to be nominating this as some kind of best picture type of thing. But then again, you get plenty of studios that are like, for your consideration, how about you put down Madam Web as best actress? And you're like, what are you talking about? So I am definitely seeing this. I don't know if I'm going to be seeing it in theaters or if I'm going to be seeing it at home when I can just like laugh hysterically at how ridiculous it is and not be a bother to anybody else in the theater. But if you haven't checked out the trailer, I suggest checking it out. It's kind of a ride to see all these characters do the weird things that they're doing in there and all. I don't remember hearing a Hadouken or Shoryuken or any of those kind of signature things, but
they had Cody do the spin,
the kick
and flash kick. Yeah, I saw that, and I saw a lot of Chun-Li kicking people in the face. Don't think I saw Hadouken.
Not a big fan of how Cammy looks in the movie. She didn't strike me as Cammy, but yeah, I'll nitpick another time. That's just one of those random stories. It's pro wrestling tangential, but it's not really as focused as some of the other things we got going on. Another kind of just like let's off the ball kind of things before we get into like the TV discussion things. One TV show that is going to be coming back relatively soon, they haven't specified exactly when, that I've seen, is LFG season 3. And 2 people have joined the cast for that, Kevin Owens and Natalya. Now, I haven't seen anything that confirms that they are coaches. The 2 articles that I had read referred to them as mentors. So we know that Booker T and Bubba Ray are continuing to be coaches. And I haven't seen anything that said anything about that. Michelle McCool and The Undertaker. I kind of assume that they're still a part of it, but there's a chance that Owens and Natty are replacing them as the coaches. And then there's a chance that they just decided maybe we should put in some people, some more names and more people will actually watch the show. Because I know I'm in the minority of watching WWE LFG, and I think that that's as good of a quick fix type of strategy as they could possibly implement, because let's face it, they're not going to look at this and go, wow, people aren't watching the show. How do we actually put in the effort and try to make things better? They're going to go, what's the easiest way that we can bring some eyes to it? And then that's when you bring in main roster superstars, and who can you afford? Well, Owens is injured and Natty's not doing shit. So sure, why not? It's a benefit, I think, regardless of whether they're replacing them as coaches or if they are just extras on the show. I still don't know who the hell they're even going to have on this cast, because they've gotten rid of a vast majority of those people, and then the rest of them are either on NXT already or on Evolve. Like Shiloh Hill made his debut, his like real quote unquote debut on NXT this week. Good showing. Seems like he's getting some support out there. But you know, the ID talents and the Performance Center group, I'm sure that they've got, you know, a handful of people that I'm not fully aware of. They could just be like, all right, let's slot them in there. I am assuming the answer is no, but does adding Owens or Natty entice either of you guys to watch this a little bit more?
I mean, I'm watching considerably less, so that can go one of two ways by the time this airs. Maybe I'm more intrigued, or maybe I'm just completely out, you know? But we'll see. And I mean, even if it's the worked context of LFG, it's nothing but a positive for these people working with Natty and Owens. And Callum will not be watching.
Yeah, I mean, what do you... You know,
Callum will not be watching.
Let's just move on.
All right.
What do you expect? You've brought up... I'm sorry, I know it seemed like a little bit like low energy. You've given up two topics I have no interest in whatsoever to start off this thing, so...
Well, let's talk about Sarah Stock. She has been going off this past week or so on so many different topics that I've lost track of what all the claims are. But I see on one post here a list of some of the things that she's mentioned. A lot of this is like replies on Twitter and, you know, kind of like, oh, that's what so-and-so said and that's kind of stuff. So I don't want to put this out there being like, oh, all these things are true or something. I have no idea. And I don't even know the context of most of this stuff. But she has complained a lot about AEW, saying that they don't have a great HR department, that there's like a bias against different types of talent that are mostly Hispanic, it seems like what I've been seeing, that people aren't being picked up from airports, that there's a problem with the people who don't speak English all that well, treatment against female wrestlers, but I don't know if that's necessarily female wrestlers that are only the foreign talent, or if it's, you know, the regular domestic female wrestlers as well. And almost everything seems to be a complaint. And that is where I get kind of lost in the weeds here, because I'm like, if there's a complaint or two, like I want to hear people out and I want to see if, you know, maybe there's something true to that. But it almost kind of seems to me like this is like here's everything that possibly, you know, I could talk about. And that's just from a fan's perspective of somebody that's trying to look into this, but isn't bothering to do all the research because, my God, I've got a life beyond Twitter gossip and ramblings. These things could be true. They could be completely made up, or they could be a perspective issue. But it seems like she has predominantly just gotten people annoyed at her. From what I've seen, like Ricochet had tweeted back, "We just didn't like you," and I'm blanking on who the other one was.
Stopped working there.
Not that long ago, if I remember correctly.
So this is relatively recent.
I don't remember 100% for sure. Let me see if I can find that. I think it might have been last year, but it could have been this year. I don't know. Maybe it's 2 years ago.
She's released in this spring of this year.
Okay. So not even a full year. So, you know, I mean, some of this stuff could be fresh and some of this stuff could be completely, you know, out of her ass and not true at all. I don't know where I fall on any of the side of this, because I feel like if there are accusations of any kind of, you know, bias against any talent, then there shouldn't be. And then if it's just, well, you didn't give special treatment to people and I really wanted it for myself or something, I mean, it's a delicate situation where like perspective is a big no as far as like just supporting it blatantly. And I don't have enough information to really make a full assessment of this, but it seems kind of, at least from my perspective right now, I don't know, the more that somebody complains and the more that they're not backed up by anything, the more that I kind of feel like they're probably the problem more than anybody else. That whole rule of like, if everybody you come across in the day is an asshole, you're probably actually the asshole, that kind of thing.
I don't know much, but I've seen some of the tweets and it sounds just like it's excessive and maybe there's a kernel of truth somewhere, but it's probably mostly just going to be turned into, yeah, she was just on a rant. And even if there is a kernel of truth, it's going to get lost in the fact of like, she's just coming across like she's ranting and a little unhinged.
Which defeats the whole purpose of putting it out there. If you want to, if you have a legitimate gripe, then you don't do it any service by kind of like, giving people a reason not to believe you.
Yeah, I mean the things of like her like directly tweeting at Tony Khan to just say to address the issues that she's bringing up, addressing the ideas like the corruption behind the scenes and the lack of an effective HR department. It's just, and like just saying like Tony Khan address the accusations, and it's like, well, at the time that she was tweeting it, he's like running the Ring of Honor show. So I don't think he's going to get his phone out and just start like starting to wade into this issue. I think that this isn't the first time that she's been, since her release, that she's been like targeting AEW for different reasons. I think she criticised the main event angle at Wrestle Dream, where like I think it was the spot where John Moxley starts waterboarding essentially Darby Allin at some point, putting his head into that fish tank, basically saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be showing that to. There are kids in the audience." That kind of, the pearl clutching that people always do when it comes to some AEW spots. And yeah, and also like this isn't too far removed from Gail Kim going like crazy on Twitter as well with her own like things as well that was based off in like an AEW thing. So maybe it's just women who worked for TNA at a certain point in time are all just like nuts and need to get off Twitter every now and again.
We're gonna next week. It's gonna be like, well, what did ODB say?
Yeah.
When is it gonna be Dixie Carter?
Yeah. I'm still trying to find, like, even when I'm like looking this up while we're talking, I'm still trying to find like a definitive list of what she's been talking about. And it seems like everybody's just sort of, she said this and then that person replied to this, then the person said this and whatever. And it's all just kind of like, it's noise that I can't filter through. I'm seeing another thing that she was complaining about Amanda Huber, Brody Lee's wife and mother of -1.
She seemed to be accusing her of being part of the reason why she was released in the first place.
Which I like. I'm not finding anything that would be like, and this is how she has the pull to fire her or convince Tony Khan to fire her.
It's like a demonstration of like the bitterness of it, because like she's like going after a particular person that she thinks cost her job, and she seems to be targeting. In some of the tweets, the very least, seems to be targeting the structure of the HR department and not being good at doing their job and bringing up certain people's, like she's tweeting at people, referencing certain people, like I can't remember a few of them off the top of my head, but I know she was like pointing out. I know Tony Khan was one of them, but she was pointing out a few other ones as well. So it seems like maybe she had a position in the company, and then that position no longer became necessary and she was released, or like she was just released for whatever reason she was released, and she feels like people that have come in are doing a poor job at HR and other aspects of it. And it's just, I'd say it does feel like a bunch of sour grapes just on the surface. As I'm not to say that like what she's saying, at least some kernels of it aren't true, but it does feel like the more that she tweets about it and then other people respond and then she responds back to them, it does feel like, okay, you just decided to just live on Twitter for the last like like week or so and just didn't get off it. Just have to make sure you're responding to everybody, getting your point across as much as you possibly can, which
now, like,
doesn't seem like healthy.
I'm reading like one thing here that she said, there is no HR department at AEW. There's a clueless puppet named Karen from Not HR who refuses to put anything in writing and spits out PC corporate lines like a bot. Only Manzioni, I don't know, has a use for her. He uses her as a shield to hide, just like Not Man would. I don't know who Not Man is. In fact, I'm still waiting for my notice, Karen. As far as I know, I'm still employed. Paychecks have been late. When do benefits end? So, like, a comment like that, like, I don't know who Manzioni or Not Man or this Karen from HR, if, you know, her name's even Karen, or if it's just kind of, you know, whatever. Again, that all kind of comes across sort of a little kind of crazy, but at the same time, if it's true that they have no HR department, and if they just spit out a bunch of corporate PC lines that protect the company and whatever, let's keep in mind, HR is not for you, it's for the company, for anybody that's always wondering. But there should be an HR department that does solve issues with company, you know, employees and policies and stuff.
Yeah, that's something I've heard a lot lately, where someone thinks HR is protecting them, and
no, corporations
figure out how to get that point across.
They only care about you, in the sense of if they can, you know, care about themselves. It's never about you specifically. And like, that will always be an argument that I support, is that there should be a department that helps the employees and not, you know, spit out a bunch of corporate PC lines. Like, yeah, sure, you got me on that one, but you lost me on all these other things. And you know, there's a chance that she can say some stuff that can come out that can point out some real issues, and she should, if that's the case. If they have any actual problems, she should call them out on that.
For example, I'm seeing here that there was a Fightful Select report that said there are elements of these tweets that were claimed to be true, specifically some of the stuff about travel when it comes to the airports.
Yeah, she had said Edge gets picked up from the airport every time. Orange Cassidy gets picked up from the airport every time, as do innumerable other talent, able-bodied males. Not Vaquero, though, not Zeuxis, not Catalina, not any of the other foreign females coming to AEW for the first time. That was at least one of the things. So, like, I could see that potentially being true. And if everybody gets, you know, treated like that, except for some people, then that's not fair.
It could be in some people's contracts, though. Like, Edge could be like, yeah, you're going to pick me up in the airport.
Yeah. And that's, you know, well within people to have that kind of stuff in their contract. Like, you know, Brock uses the plane, right? Isn't that like something? Or at least it used to be. And if that's, you know, that's only a rule for certain people, that it's in their contract, and then everybody else gets treated the same, then that's okay. And if it's just a few people don't, and those people happen to be females coming from Mexico, then that's not right. It's like, you know, most of these things is the same as, you know, anything else in life. There's a good and a bad, and it's not that hard to distinguish the difference. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it does feel like, again, maybe this, I'm not saying that, again, that element is untrue or anything along those lines, but it does feel like she's being quite particular of selecting a few, like, Latin women, none of whom have ever been employed by AEW beyond just, like, appearances. Like, none of the people that she mentioned are AEW employees, so maybe it's part of, you know, an employee perk, or like an actual contracted performer's perk of being, you know, picked up at the airport and stuff like that, whereas they only came in for a couple of appearances. They're all signed to other promotions, or they were all signed to CMLL at the time of doing this. I'm not saying that necessarily it's right that they're doing it, but it's kind of, okay, you've picked 3 people specifically, none of which at any point are AEW contracted wrestlers.
Yeah, and you can start to, you know, when you ask more questions, if you don't have the answers for it, that's when things tend to fall apart. Because, like, I would think there's something in common with those 3 examples. But now, did they do that for Mascara Dorada or for Mystico or anything? Are we doing this, like, is it only the women from Mexico? or from foreign, if they're Japanese talent, if they're whatever, is it only women that are foreign? Or is it only foreign talent? Or is it only women? Or is it whatever? Because if there's any kind of that group of people, no matter who it is, that group of people doesn't get that type of treatment, then it's a problem. Unless the one group of people is, we only do that for people that are actually employees. That's the only thing I could see being like, yeah, okay, then everybody else doesn't get that special treatment. But if anything's based off of where you live or your race or your gender or whatever it might be, then that's a huge problem. And then that's where I would think like probably more people would be supporting her if that was true, if that was happening across the board. I don't know. Sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. And sometimes when there's smoke, it's just because the fire has already been put out and it's just dissipating. So that's a story that I think is worth paying attention to, but at the same time, it's been a couple days now and it's not blowing up more than I thought that it would. So there might not be as much of a story there. But, it was a topic that was, if we had a news thing based off of pro wrestling, this is something that's going around. So figured we'd toss that into the hot tags while we're at it. Let's go to another completely random thing here. There's been a lot of chatter that Brock Lesnar is going to be retiring at SummerSlam this year coming up. That's supposed to be in Minnesota.
As I say, if that's the Minneapolis one, I understand.
I mean, he lives in Canada now, but he's he's from the area and all. And then it's a 2-night thing, so it's a special SummerSlam again. It's the US Bank Stadium. So it's a stadium show, which is another big thing too. And realistically, how much more is there for Brock to do? Even just, in the sense of how many people can he realistically fight that we haven't seen a million times? He shouldn't be there in the first place. Speaking of problems with companies and HR departments and everything along those lines, that's my big transition from the Sarah Stock thing to this. I am not a supporter of Brock being on my television screen and all. And, if he's got a retirement coming up, if they want to do a big focal point and do all that kind of stuff, then we can start fantasy booking those ideas outside of, I'm not going to get my voice heard as far as, me not liking Brock being on there. But, they're going to Brock Lesnar rule me on that front. I think depending on who he faces at WrestleMania, the two main things that I would revolve around, a perfect world where he's not involved in this Vince McMahon allegations and all the other kind of things, I would be like, all right, the two we need to cross off on the list are Brock needs to fight Gunther and Brock needs to fight Braun Breaker. Those are my only real targets. There's other people that you could have fun with along the way. You can do a match with Bronson Reed. You can do a match with CM Punk if you really wanted to do that. You can kind of play around with the roster a little bit, but I'm not going to be pitching for, it's got to be Penta versus Brock Lesnar, or it's got to be, God forbid they waste it on a Jey Uso or, whatever. I think a Logan Paul match is another one that you should probably do just because of the star power behind that. But, I'd mostly focus on Braun Breaker and Gunther.
If there were only two matches, it would be Gunther and Breaker. And we're going to talk about some other names that are planned for retirement tours or reportedly for next year, but I'm now jumping on the bandwagon of strap Gunther up and he's going to be the retirement man. He's just going to fucking put everyone out to pasture, and I would prefer the Gunther match at Mania. But I'm now thinking probably just Punk at Mania. So Gunther can be SummerSlam. Breaker should happen as well, but I don't know if we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult considering depends on people's alignments and along those lines, because Brock seems to be a heel right now. like teaming up. Well, the Brock is kind of just Brock. He just does what he does. So we'll see how it could work into fitting a potential Braun Breaker match, which I think would be a good choice. Same with Gunther as well. I think Oberfemi would be a good choice as well if they could get that sorted as well. But yeah, as I say, it's for the best. I mean, it's best for WWE in general. That it's going to hurt in the short term to lose guys, like losing Brock if he is going to retire next year, in like within a year of losing Cena. But WWE needs to get in a position where they are ending the reliance on a lot of the old guard that has been carried them through for the last 20 plus years or so. They need to start putting more faith into younger wrestlers to try and get them over to the point where they are a similar level to what these guys were at their peak. So, yeah, it's an overall good thing that these guys are like closing in on retiring altogether.
I mean,
gotta put out those fresh new guys like LA Knight and Damian Priest.
Don't fucking start me up. Don't start me.
Specifically said that just to rile
up. Look, if you like Lesnar, I think the reality is you were blessed with a 14-year run from Brock after Brock didn't do anything, following just one or 2 years of being a top guy. So they really have exhausted everything they can with Brock. I'm more than happy to see him heading towards this stage of his career from many levels. But even if all the allegations didn't exist, I'd be happy to see Brock Lesnar getting to this level. Unfortunately, to comment on Callum's point, I don't feel like they're going to learn anything. And I think they're just going to transition names like Roman and potentially like Rollins into just the part-timer role. And I don't feel like they're going to stop their reliance on those guys. It'll just be new guys in those roles.
I mean, Roman's definitely in that spot. He's not popping up more than a few times a year. And Rollins, realistically, is probably going to get to that because when he comes back from his injury, we don't know how well he's going to return. Some other people, I don't know. Like, it kind of depends. I don't think that somebody like a Drew McIntyre doesn't strike me right now as being quite in that territory yet. But, eventually everybody slows down. Randy Orton has been slowing down. And, not everybody
He's got to be up on the list soon, too, right?
Maybe they do a thing where
of his generation.
So Gunther retires Goldberg and Cena, and then Gunther retires Lesnar and retires Jericho and AJ Styles, and then keeps facing Randy Orton, and Randy Orton keeps beating him, and he's like, God damn it, let me retire you too.
That could be the White Whale, because he's the Legend Killer.
Right.
I have to kill the Legend Killer.
Got to kill the Legend Killer, and the Legend Killer is like, I ain't dying. Or something.
And you just said it there, so we can mention that in addition to AJ having confirmed that he will retire next year, Dave in the Wrestling Observer newsletter said if Jericho signs, they could be planning a retirement run for Jericho as well. And that one's more interesting because it felt like for a long time that Jericho had himself set up to retire in AEW and, do that and leave his last mark as like giving back to the business by helping launch AEW. But if under WWE setting, I don't know who I would, of the current roster, who I would want to see Jericho retire against.
I kind of always assumed that Jericho would come back to WWE for his retirement. Unless he was forced to retire through some kind of injury thing or something. Like if he had the option, I was kind of figuring that he would come back. And as far as Styles and Jericho, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anybody that I would gravitate towards to be like, that's the go-to option for who to retire them.
Gunther, right? Just Gunther fucking retires Jericho. Gunther retires.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But I also kind of wouldn't mind some variety. somebody that stands out to me that like maybe a Sami Zayn could be a fun option for somebody like a Jericho. If Owens is able to return back to action, maybe him. Looking at the roster a little bit right now, you know, I mean, like I wouldn't be throwing out, you know, Dexter Lumis as the go-to guy or Axiom or whatever, like as much as some people are fun. Those are just two names, and then like it kind of all depends on what they would prefer too, because I'm sure that they would have some kind of pull in this. And if somebody like an AJ Styles was like, hey, I really would rather retire against Finn Balor than to retire against Rusev or whatever, then I'm sure that gets factored in there. But Sheamus is another guy that I don't know how much longer Sheamus is going to be doing this. And, you know, Rey Mysterio has been like hovering around retirement for a long time.
But it's different with Rey because, you know, he's just going to fight Dom again.
I mean, it's got to be his Dom.
Sheamus is an interesting one because of everyone we're talking about right now, it feels like Sheamus started so much later. So I feel like Sheamus could have a few more years than these other names. But even Sheamus, like if he was to retire tomorrow, it'd be like, hey, you've got a twofer, Gunther, you know, you're gonna get your
Gunther would work for Sheamus too, yeah. Like,
yeah, because who else would you really want to see? Like Pete Dunne, if you could heat him back up. Because that's the other thing.
Drew, I guess.
You'd have to heat up a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, you could set up a Nathan Fraser to retire in AJ Styles if he was put in the right position.
Yeah.
You know?
Or, you know, maybe a Javon Evans or whoever is like on the NXT roster that gets brought up in the meantime. You know, could be like maybe Styles is a big fan of Carmelo Hayes and is willing to give him that kind of bonus, or
a Grayson Waller for Jericho.
Yeah, like
Grayson Waller effect.
Part of me kind of wants people to be paired off with people who they can sort of pass that sort of character on to the next time around. And then it doesn't work for everybody, you know. But like, I wouldn't look at a Jericho and be like, as much as I like the guy, I wouldn't be like, that's who he should lose to Jacob Fatu, you know? I tend to think more like he should lose to another cocky type of guy, or, you know.
You know who's another name you got to start thinking about? You mentioned Sheamus. Miz has got like 3 years or 4 years on Sheamus. Miz might be entering that stage of his career as well. He wrestles so safely that you don't think about it. But he could be entering that stage.
Eventually, in 2039 or whatever, we'll talk about R-Truth as well.
Yeah, and he'll look maybe 2 days older.
Yeah. He'll retire as Ron Simmons. Or Ron Killings, not Ron Simmons. What am I saying? Jesus. I'm used to saying Ron Simmons, not Ron Killings. That goes to prove right there that the Ron Killings thing didn't work.
Body and straight the Farouk, and it just becomes Ron Simmons.
That just damn. Yeah, I mean, if there's any other does anybody else come to your mind, Callum, about like a potential Brock loss? It's Gunther, Breaker, you know, is that like, you know, that would be a really good spot for Dragunov or somebody?
Obviously, it'd be good for a lot of people to be the one to retire Brock Lesnar, but I just don't really. I'm just living in the world of just like realism. There's no way they're going to get someone like a Ilya Dragunov or I don't know, Javon Evans be the one to retire Brock Lesnar. It's like it's going to be Gunther probably. The other people mentioned is like Jericho. Jericho's you've got more openness to. I almost don't want to see it be Gunther in that occasion, because even if it feeds into his story, I don't think Jericho at this age should be a babyface probably, or I don't think he should retire as a babyface. I think he should retire as a sniveling heel trying to be dragged out of the company. That's kind of like what he always said he wanted to do. Is like he doesn't want to like the big, like massive retire match. He just wants to, you know, be on an episode of Raw or SmackDown, and he said, okay, this match is going to be like, if you win, my career's over. And then he just loses by even by cheating and pulling every single trick out of the book. He still loses and then just gets dragged out by security and just thrown into the ether. So I think he should probably lose to someone who is like a young baby face coming up.
Yeah,
Styles makes sense to lose to Gunter because of just him being a perennial babyface at this point.
with Jericho, the way that Callum describes it, that's the perfect fit for a Javon Evans type. If Jericho's going to go kicking and screaming.
And then, of course, with everybody, you got the, if they're not the retirement person, they're people that they can face along the way. Like, I'm mentioning about like Styles having a list of people that would be really fun to see him up against. We never really got to see like the proper thing with Carmelo, for instance. So like I want Styles to have a match with him that could be like a real legitimate go out there and tear down the house type of match. And I still don't quite understand what he's doing with the Dragon Lee tag team. That just felt so out of nowhere for me.
It allows him to compete in flippy dippy matches while being the less flippy dippy person.
And then they just like picked Dragon Lee. Like,
in that sense, I'll say who cares, because it's giving Dragon Lee something.
Yeah, it's just like,
and I like that.
I wish that we could see on like some WWE Unreal or like some actually realistic things, the pitch meeting where somebody was like, I don't know, how about fucking Dragon Lee? Because it's like that had to have been the case. I can't imagine that started as like, I've got a really good idea here. I really want to pair these two up for this specific reason. It had to have been like, I don't know, why don't we give the belts to AJ and Dragon Lee? Like,
I can see AJ, if they said, hey, we want to do a tag team thing with you, I can see AJ going, you're not doing anything with Dragon Lee. Give me Dragon Lee.
Yeah.
Like, speaking of AEW, this is a question for Callum. I mean, AEW, I spoiled it. Speaking of Unreal, this is a question for Callum. Did you watch the last episode of AEW?
No.
Well, it's literally just RJ City making fun of Triple H on Unreal. And he's just doing the voice, and he's mimicking like the... You saw the clip of, well, first I got to talk to The Rock, then I got to talk to Nick Khan, and he just spoofed the whole thing, and it was a really good way to close out the show. I'm sad they're not going to do anymore, because I thought those were really funny, but I think that went out on a high note. And RJ City's great. I wish they would do more with him as a character.
I don't think I've seen a single episode of that.
That's a shame. I think you would really get a kick out of AEW.
Is that what it was this whole time? Was like a parody thing? Because I thought it was just generic interviews of,
no, it's spoofed.
The 500th time that somebody goes, tell me about how you got into wrestling and tell me about all the struggles you've done.
No, the whole thing is a spoof. It's RJ City trying to be like, a respectable interviewer, and depending on who he gets, everything's just a joke.
Huh. Yeah, they didn't do a good enough job promoting it as that for me to pay attention to it. At least it just always
I didn't even know that
like
you'd never watched it. That show would be so fun for you.
Are there like specific episodes that are like, that one's one of the good ones, or
check out the Mariah May and Hikaru Shida are two very good ones.
A lot of the ones with the Japanese talent are very good. I enjoyed the Adam Copeland one. I think you'd probably like the Taz one of the earlier ones. No, but there's a lot of really like he asks him who's Yambag Jones, It's I didn't know you didn't watch that. AEW was tremendous. RJ is tremendous. I think it's a shame he's used as a very straightforward broadcaster and not a goof.
So funny because like in the hardcore, she just one where he gets her to like, because obviously she's Japanese, and so she gets here's a few phrases that you can learn to use at the back, and one of them was, "That doesn't work for me, brother." And then in the Mariah May one, I think he sent a load of like first tweets that people would put towards her, and one of them was said, "I'd love to take Mariah May out on a date, but all I can offer is autism."
Yeah, so absolutely, Tony, you should watch AEW.
There should be like some compilations. You don't have to watch episodes, but I'm sure there's like at least one or two compilations out there of like the best, funniest moments from it.
Yeah, I might have to check that out then. So no more AEW. No more LA Knight on TV for a little while. Look at that transition. We don't exactly know why he was written off TV, and of course, everybody jumped to all these different conclusions. It seems primarily based off of the other reports that it's just a matter of just give him some time off, and then we'll bring him back closer to the Royal Rumble. Then people will care more.
He was battling through an unspecified illness, courtesy of a Fightful Select report.
Illness, not injury.
So it's not injury. He's sick in some way.
All right, so more justified than. I was just gonna. Wow, out of all the phrases I was gonna say then how Brock Lesnar just pisses away every once in a while. That was really the phrase. Even my subconscious is like, throw a joke in there. So he was written off. He being LA Knight, it was written off TV for an angle with a tsunami on top of a car in the backstage segment. The same thing that we had seen happen with Braun Strowman in the past from Bronson Reed. And, in the mix with that is also another story that's going around about this whole division and all, and that the WWE is using multiple masked people just to try to throw people off. Because if I recognize that person's stature, or that person moves in this kind of way or whatever. So now people are going, see, it has to be Montez Ford, or no, see, this has to be this person, or this has to be that person. It can't be Austin Theory. Which is exactly what they should do to a certain extent. Now, I say that being, if you want people to follow the logic of things, then you have to have an excuse for why the person looks completely different. And then if you are doing the typical pro wrestling thing of you're all stupid and it doesn't matter anyway, and this is just a TV show and you should shut your brains off and forget about plot holes, then go ahead and do it anyway, because a whole bunch of people are going to get thrown off and go crazy. So I anticipate that we're not going to get an answer about who the Masked Man is until January with the Braun Breaker and CM Punk match. I'm assuming LA Knight is written off TV until sometime around then, if not later. Probably not just going to be on the next episode of Raw, or the second to next episode of Raw, like 2 weeks from now. It's probably not just going to be like, LA Knight's just back already. And in the meantime, I don't know what the Vision does, because if they have less and less people that they can be working with, then you're going to do for a month,
Is Logan Paul officially in the Vision now?
Seems like it.
I you know what? That's fair. I gotta tell you, watching less WWE television, I'm not as annoyed that they're dragging it out, because we're already at December 12th. It'll be January 5th before you know it. And if you're not hounding this stuff, and I might end up needing to watch everything rigorously again. But right now, it's just it's okay. I will say I'd rather it be Montez Ford than Theory. I think that's at least new and fresh and
More
exciting.
interesting.
I would much rather that. But I'm guessing it gets revealed during the title match. The interesting part would be, does the masked person help Breaker win? And are we actually looking at a world where Braun Breaker is going to be the youngest world champion in years?
He wouldn't be the youngest, right? That would still be
not
Randy
youngest
Orton.
overall. No, but youngest in quite some time.
Braun Breaker is how old? He is 28. So yeah, younger person in over the past 10 years or so, at the very least.
Not named Pete Dunne in the NXT UK title.
Yeah,
but
the title that doesn't matter, because whenever they do the thing where they run down people's records and stuff, they'll talk about Gunther and they'll be like, Gunther is an Intercontinental champion, a former world champion. And you're like, yeah, he also held the UK title for 900 days or whatever.
They only bring that up when they want to say, for 85% of his time,
yeah,
in WWE, he's been a champion, which is true, and goes to show how strong of a run he's had. But yeah, as far as the Masked Man, I want it to be Montez Ford. I want it to be somebody anybody new. It could be, an NXT guy for all I care. I just want it to be somebody that's exciting. Because if you wait that long and then it's Theory, there I do think you have a problem with the reveal.
Mm. I mean, I think that if they would have done it even the Raw episode after Survivor Series, they probably still would have gotten a lot of like, it's Austin Theory. And I like Austin Theory to an extent. You know, this isn't me crapping on him, but it's just me being honest. Austin Theory hasn't been a hot commodity in years. The last time that we saw him, Grayson Waller was like, yeah, I'm so glad I'm not a tag team with that guy anymore because he blows. That's not a great way to, you know, transition into, okay, he's next, the next person we're going to push.
And then I think if you're going to do that, he has to be successful. Like, for example, if the goal is going to be he interferes in the January 5th title match, he has to be successful.
Yeah, he has to like help break or actually win.
Because otherwise, then it's really like, it's Theory and he still lost. Like, he was ineffective. So, in that sense, I'm interested to see what happens on January 5th.
And, you know, of course, next week on Raw, we'll probably get something else from another masked person. We'll probably get some kind of an LA Knight is going to be out for X amount of time discussion, you know, continue that story on that way. Raw itself, that covers most of what had happened on there. The rest of it's just kind of, you know, it's what it is. Stephanie Vaquer goes like, all right, I'm done with Nikki Bella. Then Nikki Bella gets beaten up by Raquel. Sure. Liv Morgan's having some issues with the Judgment Day. So
that was weird to me. Because you just did a thing a week prior that they're fine. They're more than fine. And the next week you're like, wait, Raquel, I didn't know that you were promised a title match, even though I'm supposed to be watching the show. Very strange.
That's as good of a transition we can get into the Tony needs to rant about NXT portion of this episode. Because if you're talking about things that make no sense and completely negating the creative decision that you did the week prior, this was the entire episode of NXT was utter bullshit like that. It starts off with a promo, and it's Ricky Saints saying, I'm horribly depressed that I lost. This isn't verbatim, but this is, you know, essentially the breakdown. I'm really depressed that I lost to Obafemi, as in the thing you saw at NXT Deadline. So if you didn't see Deadline, Ricky Saints loses to Obafemi. He has a backstage segment with Javon Evans. Now, Evans says, you can win that title again, man. Like, you know, you did it already. You proved that you can do it, so you can do it again. Like a good friend would, you know, optimistic. Hey, buddy, you know, pick yourself up and, you know, get back into it. I believe in you. And he's just sort of like, I don't know, man. I don't think that there's a chance that I can beat Obafemi. Once Obafemi wins that title back, it's impossible, which already doesn't make any sense because you beat Obafemi for the title. But let's, you know, not already go into a complete lack of logic. So Ricky Saints then says, I've actually changed my mind. I actually do think that I am able to beat Obafemi because I'm absolute Ricky Saints. Now, if that would have been the only thing on the episode, then it's like, oh, okay, he had a moment of doubt because he lost the title, but then he thought about it and he's like, you know what, actually, I'm going to fight for this more. That I wouldn't be opposed to. Javon Evans comes out and he says, I won the Iron Survivor Challenge to earn a title shot at New Year's Evil, but I'd rather just have it tonight. Mm-hmm. And somehow that's okay. But it also happens when Ricky Saints goes, I don't think that you should do that. I think that I should fight Obafemi first, and it would be so much easier for you to beat me than Obafemi. And I'm watching this opening segment, and I'm like, did they realize what they were writing here? This doesn't make any... Okay, fine, sure. Okay, they just did a bad job setting up that they want to do the title match tonight. Clearly, Ricky Saints is going to get involved, and it's going to turn into a triple threat at New Year's Evil. And I'm assuming he'll probably be out there to try to either cost Obafemi the title and inadvertently cause some kind of, you know, disruption or something, because it would be easier for Ricky Saints to beat Javon Evans as well than to beat Obafemi, the guy that he just lost to, that he said it was impossible for him to beat, that he now wants to fight. Again, this is going to get worse. The next segment is Kalani Jordan beating Jordan Grace for the fourth time, if I have my numbers correct. It's at least the third. And Jordynne Grace later on is upset, and she's like, man, I suck.
Mm-hmm.
I came here and I'm losing everything. And I can't even lose to, quote, a rookie now. Mind you, Kelani Jordan has been in NXT longer than Jordynne Grace. Now, she's not been a wrestler as long as Jordynne Grace has, but sure. And she didn't just lose to this quote unquote rookie. Now she's lost to her every single time that they've had a match. And Thea Hale gives her a pep talk, very much like Javon Evans, of like, nah, come on. Like, you're Jordynne Grace. You're great. And Jordynne Grace, as a babyface would, goes, oh, I'm going to take advice from a 16-year-old. And she's just a bitch. Okay. But everybody, it was all preparing for running out for the open challenge for the NXT Women's North American Championship, because Blake Monroe had a segment on Deadline where she said, I want an open challenge. And Ava said, sounds like a bad idea. And she said, I don't care. So how does the open challenge segment go down? The entire locker room comes out. Blake is like, I don't want to fight anybody. Thea Hale jumps her from behind, immediately makes her tap out. There's no referee. There's not a referee to begin with. No referee comes out. She runs around excited, and then they move on to the next segment.
So I want to jump in here and say I saw only 2 clips from NXT. The open challenge was one of them, and I think that was so dumb. Like,
oh my God, it's so dumb.
I want an open challenge. And it's again, because the NXT women have this thing that they do where they're like, we're all going to just charge the ring at the same time. They did this when JC Jane won the belt. They did this, they do this a lot. It's just to show, my God, isn't the NXT women's division loaded with people? Okay. And then Thea Hale taps out Blake Monroe. And the sucky part is, I can't turn my brain off and go, oh man, maybe Thea Hale's got a chance. Because you just know that they're doing this to make it look like she's got a chance, but then Blake will eventually get the better of her. I don't like the idea of saying, I want to do an open challenge. And then the story is NXT is so unorganized that everybody charged the ring. So the advertised match didn't happen.
The advertised match doesn't happen, partially because no referee was even out.
Well, if
you agreed to an open challenge, the referee should have been out there with Blake Monroe so that when the first person came out, the match would have started.
Were they not trying to hold back the other women?
Not until it became like, oh, everybody's out there and like that kind of thing. But then, Thea jumps from behind, and then it's like, then technically she gets the open challenge because she's the first one in the ring, if that's the rule. And then one of the referees would have been like, now we start the open challenge because we go with her and everybody else just go to the back. You lost. The way that like Tommaso Ciampa recently on SmackDown was like, I'm heading to the ring. And then I think it was like Axiom or somebody was like, they got there first. And then it was like, okay, now Ciampa has to go to the back. So it's like they're defeating their own rules again, all because they wanted to promote a segment that they didn't want to do. And you can't even argue, well, that's the only way that you can set up Thea Hale. Thea Hale could have had any kind of interaction with Blake Monroe.
Beat the clock challenge.
She could have just had a backstage thing. Blake Monroe could have came out with a promo, and Thea Hale could have gone after her. They could have had the actual match, and Blake could have cheated to win, and then it could have been like, well, now that you cheated to win, she's going to get a rematch. Because later on, Ava just goes, based off of that, she's getting a match next week.
Well, there you go. No, it played off very weird, and the whole thing with Javon, it was very strange to me that they're just like, you're just gonna do it now. I don't like when they do that with anything, by the way. I didn't like the couple times where they're like, the Royal Rumble winner will just randomly challenge before WrestleMania.
Right.
I don't like when they do that. If you set it up for a certain date, keep the date.
And it gets worse later on, too. So then you have Shiloh Hill's debut. He beats Lexis King. and has a good showing. You know, he pulls his tooth out. I guess that's going to be part of his gimmick now. And then Ethan Page starts cutting a promo and gets attacked by Tony D'Angelo. You know, the guy who attacked Javon Evans, who in the beginning of the night completely disregarded that, didn't say anything about it, nor did Obafemi. He was about to say, we got to talk about what happened at the end of the night. And then it became the Ricky Saints and Javon Evans thing. So Tony D'Angelo ends NXT Deadline by coming back and attacking Javon Evans just so he can then go after Ethan Page and not have anything involved with the NXT Championship at all. Which clearly means they decided over those couple of days, okay, we actually don't want Tony D'Angelo to be in this position. We want to do the Ricky Saints heel turn and we want to do whatever like that, but we could do something else with Tony D. Why don't we have him go after the North American title? The title he's already won. And that's, I guess, what the pieces of fabric were on Ava's desk, is that was like his cut up hat because he's not wearing the hat anymore.
Well, I told you it was the hat.
And they just did a piss poor job with that.
Yeah. So if I see this going a couple of ways, because I can see this going maybe what they decided on, and this is a long shot, but maybe they decided they want Javon on the main roster. And they're just like, yeah, we need you to rush that.
Maybe.
Or what they've decided is we're going to somehow get through, because Ricky Saints is in his mandatory, I've been a face for a year, I need to be a heel for a year, and then I can go to the main roster. But maybe what they decided is Tony D beats Ethan and then has a title for title match, because they love those, with Oba at some point, with the idea being, you know, Oba held the North American title the longest. There's a way you can get around to that, but that's the only reason logically I can think he somehow decided to go after the North American title.
I don't think that there's any real logic behind it. I think that they just...
I'm trying at least.
Yeah. I think that they booked a bunch of shit that they didn't really have plans for, or they did have plans and they completely changed their plans. Because then Ethan Page goes backstage and complains to Ava, as he realistically should, to be like, yo, what the hell? Why aren't you doing anything with this? And Ava's response to that is essentially, oh, well, anyway, the 4 people who lost the Iron Survivor Challenge will now be in a fatal 4-way number 1 contender match to figure out who's at New Year's Evil. And I'm like, but that's the... Aren't you setting up the Ricky Saints and Obafemi and Javon Evans thing for that? Like, isn't that kind of, you know, okay, fine, sure. Silverca beats Ren Sinclair. And then they, not that anybody cares, but they had advertised that Hank Walker and Tank Ledger would return on this episode. And their return was a video package about what they've been doing. And then a backstage interview where they are going to fight OTM next week. So they didn't really have their return. They just had anyway, we are going to return, but it'll be next week. And the show ends with Obafemi retaining the NXT title over Javon Evans. So they wasted New Year's Evil thing because Ricky Saints turns heel. Because he pulls Javon Evans out and doesn't want Javon to win the title. So the guy that was your friend, who is easier to beat, is not the guy that you want, even though you agreed that you think that that's a better idea. Because you want to face the guy that you said it was impossible for you to beat. And that will set up not the New Year's Evil thing, because it's going to be Dion Lennox, Leon Slater, Miles Bourne, or Joe Hendry against Obafemi. So 4 people that are completely unrelated to this story are going to have the New Year's Evil match after losing the match that sets up that, so that Ricky Saints and Javon can have a match probably against each other at New Year's Evil. And then we can come back around to this probably all the way through to Stand and Deliver. And it'll probably be those 3 are in a triple threat at Stand and Deliver. Let's kill 5 months. I hated this episode of NXT, as you can tell. I hate the Tony D thing. I hate the title situation. I hate the open challenge. I hate how Jordan Grace is a complete and ineffective loser. I feel like this episode was written by ChatGPT or something, and
I mean, it's possible.
it wouldn't shock me if it was. Or it's like a new writing team that decided to pull Last Jedi and said, anyway, you set this all up, but how about I just say no, even if it doesn't make any sense, and then you can come back around and you can make it mean even less sense, and we could just, instead of, turning this into something good, we can just completely erase it all, and then it can all fall apart, I don't want to build that Jenga tower. I want to just punch it in the middle. I hated it so much.
I saw the Blake Monroe thing, and I saw Javon lose, and I was just like, Tony, I didn't just see that, right? And you're like, yeah, I hated this. I'm just gonna read my rant on the hot tags. I'm like, all right. And not watching WWE it's a game changer. Like, it really is, because you're just like, all right, well, I chose to sleep instead, and I could see that I made the right decision.
Oh, wait a minute. What was because I did say that I wanted to just read off what I had written on the thing. Let me see where I was. Okay, so this is what I put up on the Ring Report. This was my, to quote myself, to break this down and expose how awkward the storyline is, Tony D'Angelo attacked the number one contender, Evans, who earned a title shot for January 6th, which instead is happening on December 9th for no reason, because he's actually going for a different champion, Ethan Page, and Evans lost this match because the previous champion turned heel because he wants to win the title back first, but there will also be a fatal four-way match to determine who gets the January 6th match, with the people who failed to win the match to get the January 6th match, with a setup that none of them are involved because Saints and Evans and Femi are all intertwined, all while Femi prepares to face Cody Rhodes at Saturday night's main event, which is about John Cena's retirement, which was the focal point of Page's promo to set up why Tony D'Angelo attacked him. Because that's right, Ethan Page was talking mostly about John Cena. And then Tony D'Angelo attacked him. What? Like, what the... It was a much better episode of Dynamite this week.
Yeah.
And that was the first half of Winter is Coming, which started off with the Babes of Wrath, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale, beating the Timeless Love Bombs, Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa, to win the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championships after a 3-month or so, 3.5 month delay from when they first announced when those titles were, but we finally came around to it, and the underdogs get the win. So we've got our first ever champions. The inaugural titles are over on Cameron and Nightingale, and I'm totally down for that. It makes sense. They could have gone with Storm and Shirakawa, and it would have been like, all right, you're putting it on Storm because she's one of your big focal points, but it's the tag division, and Cameron and Nightingale are popular. Why not? I like it.
I was really happy with the result of this match. I didn't like the match itself, and I think it speaks to something Callum said a lot in this podcast, where the tournament matches were unfortunately not the strongest, and I'm just glad they put the belts on Nightingale and Cameron, just because I didn't want to see another major accolade go to Toni Storm when we can build other women.
I think I thought the match was good. I quite enjoyed it. I thought that the energy was really good. I thought the crowd really helped that as well. And yeah, I thought it was one of the better matches of the whole tournament, maybe the best match of the whole tournament, which is good to save it for the last one. And yeah, I thought that Cameron and Nightingale were going to win because you get that nice, like, immediate babyface win, the underdog story, and it gives Cameron her first title, and she's been quite a fixture of AEW TV for the last year and a half, and gives Nightingale another title before she, you would imagine sometime next year, gets closer towards the World Championship. But yeah, I think that I totally would have been fine with either result, because the Storm and Shirakawa thing, the benefit of that being if they were to have won the tag titles, it means that Toni Storm goes away from the singles division for a little while, which I'm not saying that it's a big issue if she does or doesn't, but for some people, it's become a bit of a fatigue. So maybe her separating away from it for a while. But I don't think they're going to move away from the timeless love bombs anytime soon. I think they'll be one of the people that are chasing the title. I don't think the Cameron and Nightingale reign is going to be particularly long. Probably a couple of months, maybe. And they'll probably end up dropping it to the team that they kind of really want to be the foundation of this division for a little while, whether that's like Sisters of Sin, whether that's Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford when she's back and ready to compete. I think it's just a case of, let's do this feel-good moment to crown the first champions, and then we'll decide another team to be like the fixtures, like the benchmark tag team. And that's when you'll probably then see that team trade between them and the Timeless Love Bombs. So yeah, but I just think it's a feel good moment, and it's a good moment for Harley Cameron to get some reward, because it's unlikely she'll win a singles title in AEW.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. Yeah, she could. She's improving, and there are plenty of instances where somebody is like not necessarily the best. I'm going out there and winning all my matches type of performer, and they still win the title. I mean, looks at Maxine Dupree right now. It happens, but most likely, I don't think she would.
My kind of argument for that is like, if you're a promotion that pushes yourself and like we're the best wrestle, then it's fine to like win these sort of tag titles, because she's got Willow and she's a good enough worker in her own right. But it's a case of it's unlikely that she'll ever end up winning the TBS or certainly not the World Championship. But I would say that off the back of this tournament, which I agree that most of the matches weren't fantastic, and they probably need to put more effort into actual having a lot more tag team women's matches moving forward to just like build up that chemistry and understanding. They also need to probably, if they want to make this work and actually do something serious with it, they probably should devote some time to looking at some women's tag teams out on the independent circuit, and trying to bring at least a couple of them in to see how they fit into this. That's kind of like part of the belief when they signed Lacey Lane and bringing her in. I thought, okay, well, you're going to sign Kacy Catanzaro then just to add a tag team that's done stuff before and has some inbuilt chemistry ready to go. But seemingly they haven't moved towards signing Catanzaro yet. So
she could end up just teaming with somebody new. But
good, yeah.
Yeah, you can always make makeshift tag teams.
Yeah, I mean, they've been like, they had Maya World and Hian teaming recently, and on like a Collision. So maybe if they're both being brought in, they could both be added into the fold. They apparently signed Lena Cross recently as well. So there are some people that they could bring in and say, okay, maybe we don't start these people in the singles division. Maybe we form tag teams with them and put some more emphasis on this title.
So, okay.
I mean, I want to see, I don't know if there are any like strong women's tag teams outside on the independents right now. I would love to see a strong division. And I mean that in the like literal sense of, I would like to see, these people are exclusive to tag team for a while. I'd like to see that in the men's division, by the way, too. Just because I think that would help boost the importance of the titles. We talk about this a lot, but somewhere along the way, tag team wrestling became like a stepping stone because everybody had to be the major singles breakout. And I think, especially in women's divisions, you can really create new stars by just having them focus on that for arguably the majority of their career. And I don't see that for Nightingale, because I do think she's going to be much better off as the top babyface singles.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could have given her the title instead of Chris Statlander, for instance, and I think that nobody would have really batted an eye.
Right.
But in the meantime, she can have some fun with Harley, and they can do the whole tag team thing, and they can, be a spotlight without being perpetually challenging for the main championship and all. And then once they drop those titles, then you can move on and continue everything and move Willow up and keep Cameron where you want to keep her, and do your thing. They followed that up with a Continental Classic match, Gold League. Kazuchika Okada beats Jack Perry, who was taken over after Darby Allin for not being medically cleared to compete and everything like that. So he inherits his loss to, was it Kevin Knight? I think, yeah, Kevin Knight.
Yes.
After that, Don Callis presents an offer to Jack Perry about joining Don Callis' family, and he offers him the $1 million that the Young Bucks would have earned. Perry says no. They start a whole brawl thing. Luchasaurus comes out. Young Bucks come out, whatever. This leads to a trios match being announced for next week, Holiday Bash, which will be the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega against the 3 members of the Don Callis family that don't seem to get along all that super well, of Konosuke Takeshita, Kazuchika Okada, and Hechicero. So I wonder how they're going to lose that. And that'll be for the full $1 million. So Josh Alexander is partially responsible for winning that, and he didn't get any of it. One way or another, it seems.
That's so funny.
Yep. I think this is the longest ever attempt of the can they coexist storyline.
Yeah.
History.
It's been a while. If this were WWE, they would have won the tag titles too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so weird that like they're really like shoehorning it, forcing it, and it makes me wonder if maybe we're all getting swerved. Maybe the main event isn't, or the finals of the Continental Classic isn't Takeshita Okada. Maybe it's going to be like Fletcher winning it all or something.
It does kind of paint Don Callis into a how stupid are you situation, because it's like, and you know what I'm going to hinge all my bets on is that the 2 guys that adamantly freaking hate each other are going to get along this time.
I don't mind heels being idiots. Like that's totally fine. And he just believes in his own hype so much that he just thinks that these 2 that are clearly butting heads on everything, that he can get them on the same page because that's what's best for the Don Callis family. And so he's just putting everything into, I am going to make this work. You are going to team together. You are going to like each other. You are going to both be my diamonds in this faction, come hell or high water. And so he's just going to keep going for it, regardless of any evidence to the contrary.
Fake it till you make it.
Not a fan of that.
No, I don't like that mantra at all. I think it's actually completely ridiculous, and it doesn't actually. I have no instances of proof that ever works for myself or for anybody else that I'm aware of. I think that's one of those hang in there types of things.
I've given that advice many times. It doesn't work. But before we move away from here, I want to talk about Jack Perry biting Kazuchika Okada in the balls. That was a bridge too far for me. Maybe it's just because it's this tournament and it's supposed to be all pure wrestling, that it's just like, I know I'll get out of a tombstone pile driver by biting his dick.
Hey, sometimes you have to do what you got to do.
It's very weird.
I thought the match was like a good encapsulation of why Perry just doesn't work as a heel, but it's good that like he's taken some of the elements from his heel run and is showing a bit more of a aggressive streak to it, but using it to be the role that he should be, which is like a mid-card babyface.
One of the pillars, right?
He's also potentially hurt. I'm not sure what the deal is here, but I know he was holding his ankle throughout the match after a certain point, and I had seen I think it was an Observer report that he was legit banged up.
So hopefully that's not like Darby Allin's injured. Let's put in Jack Perry. Jack Perry's injured. Let's put in somebody else. Yeah.
Well, then you just got to put in Sammy Guevara. You have to honor the pillars.
And then that's how MJF comes back, right? They each wrestle one match. Some reports saying that MJF is planned to be a part of World's End.
Oh, well, obviously.
And I don't know necessarily where he would fit into that card.
Well, it could just be where he comes back.
Yeah, could just be flat out. He's going to come out and cut a promo. No, they don't have that much time to set up anything. That's for sure.
Well, we should know by is it next week if we'll know whether or not he's defending the Diamond Ring?
Yeah, I mean, next week is the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal.
So we should know at least if he's defending there. And then if not, he can always call a shot. He's got to give 7 days notice. Next week would give him at least enough time to make 7 days notice.
who do you guys think is going to be down to the final two or slash, win the Diamond Ring this time?
If I had a look at who's in the match to see if there's any crossover with the
I don't think they announced anybody. Did they?
I don't think so. Because I would like to see if there's any crossover with the tournament. Because Kevin Knight's getting a massive push right now. And I could see him at least being in the final two.
I just don't think there'll be anybody in the tournament that's still in the C2.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There's always honestly, Eddie Kingston just lost to Joe. There's always Eddie Kingston. Maybe one of the like a Wheeler if you need a heel for your final two.
Well, the winner of the ring gets the title shot at Maximum Carnage. So
that's interesting.
I don't, of course, nobody knows if that's going to be Samoa Joe or if they're going to have the title change hands beforehand, but I'm kind of assuming that Joe is still the champion for Maximum Carnage. And then that makes me think more than likely, it's not a guarantee, but more than likely it'll probably be a babyface that is fighting him. They've done heel versus heel, so it's not like it's any kind of like it has to be a babyface sort of thing. But I kind of can't picture MJF coming back and being a babyface for that spot to go fight Joe at Maximum Carnage. But I also feel it's a little bit weird if somebody else wins that ring at this point.
I mean, there is an inbuilt story with MJF is that like Joe beat him originally for the title. So there is that kind of, they could tell that sort of story without necessarily turning one of them babyface. Just like, I'm just coming after you and going to beat you because I'm just going to get you back for taking the title off me in the first place.
And he still has the contract, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He still has the contract. So I'm not sure if it feels kind of like a hat on a hat. So I didn't know about the Maximum Carnage aspect. How about a returning Jay White? Anybody?
I mean, do we know when he's supposed to be back?
I'm shocked he's been gone this long.
Well, if he's been injured for a reason to keep him out this long, then I guess that's the reason.
It'd be nice if he could come back. I mean, looking through the roster, there's not a strong contingent of babyfaces who aren't preoccupied. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I haven't seen Lashley do anything.
Well, do we not think it can just be one of Swerve or Hangman?
It could be.
It could be Swerve, definitely. Hangman straight up said, I'll see you at World's End.
So, yeah, but say, like, it's unlikely to be, but, like, Hangman would, in a way, make sense because of his just inbuilt rivalry with MJF, and so he just takes MJF's Diamond Ring from him. So
then maybe they even feud over that if you don't want to be over the title or something. Technically, I guess you could play around with the idea that MJF could want the ring back and be like, can I use this contract on the ring? But I think that'd be kind of ridiculous.
My God, that would be amazingly stupid. I would.
Yeah, I don't think
that's not what I'm pitching for the matter. It's like, technically you could, but I don't think that's a good idea.
I just want you to know that's an amazingly stupid idea, logically.
But like Swerve's aesthetic works for a diamond ring as well, so like you have to think about that aspect of it as well. That like you would like, I wouldn't go with someone like an Eddie Kingston because like Eddie Kingston just doesn't. What would Eddie Kingston be doing with a diamond ring?
Sell it.
Exactly, that's what he'd probably do.
That'd be funny. Sells it to MJF.
Yeah. We'd have to go someone that's like somewhat flamboyant, so you could, like a Swerve works, like Kevin Knight if he wasn't involved in the tournament would work.
Ricochet
Juice Robinson, Ricochet would work. Juice Robinson, Dalton Castle, that kind of person would work well with that sort of gimmick. But I don't think yeah, I think that you either have to give it to a heel because it's basically a heel weapon, or yeah, just someone like Swerve that can hold it for a little while, and that makes a bit of an inbuilt feud with MJF when MJF comes back. It's like he wants the diamond ring back.
Give it to Stoke. Maybe he could get some bitches. Yeah, so
my final guess, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett going all the way. Jeff Jarrett going to win Dynamite Diamond Ring and beat Samoa Joe with it.
So not to spoil my full list of, I wrote up some posts that'll be posted eventually. I don't know when they're scheduled for What Culture, but my usual biggest winners and losers articles, I wrote up that for WWE and AEW. I had forgotten completely that Jeff Jarrett started off this year being like, I'm going for that championship. I'm going to have one last run.
Yep. I never did.
It's one of those things where I'm happy to pivot away from that.
Yeah. So he tops the list for me on that front. Mark Briscoe is going to have the TNT title match against Daniel Garcia on Collision. We got some other matches announced for that. Page and Strickland beat the Ops.
I know they're in Wales, so is it live? Like, are they live?
I think so. It's an early start. I think it's like 4:30 or
That's
something.
Cool.
I don't know for sure. Speedball Mike Bailey gets an upset over Kyle Fletcher in the Continental Classic. That was cool.
Dude, this match was just unbelievable. Like one of the best matches of the year for television wise, definitely for AEW.
See, I think this was very believable because these two, they're fucking great. You know when you put these two on a poster, it's like, oh, they're gonna kill it. I was really glad to see Bailey get the win because I was worried that they were gonna want to have Fletcher go through undefeated, and it was nice to see Bailey get a strong win.
Usually they end up giving maybe one win to even like the lower talent throughout these, but at some point somebody's got to just lose. And I was thinking that there was a chance that could be maybe Bailey this time around, but I like that he won the match and he scored an upset, and that kind of like reset the tone a little bit for, now Fletcher is not the obvious number one. Now he's tied with Okada, so that brings a little bit more tension into there. Especially considering all the like chaos of injuries and stuff. It's got to be really hard to book something like this. And I've been enjoying it for the most part, so.
Yeah. I think this is why, like, yes, they do find things tricky, especially if you have had the injury to Darby Allin, and they've decided to just throw Perry in, and he's a guy that can pretty much just do what Darby Allin was going to do in terms of his record. And yeah, in terms of like how many matches he's going to win and lose, you can equally believe Jack Perry doing the same thing that Darby Allin would do. It's even more difficult in like New Japan because whenever they usually get these injuries during the G1, they usually just, okay, this guy's just going to get 0 points all the way through. Now he's just not going to substitute him, and so then they have to just rebook the entire thing to make sure the points all still work out the way they want to. I can totally understand this is why WWE has never done anything like this, because that's just too much work for them.
And the last thing was the Eddie Kingston thing, which we kind of already talked about a little bit, but Eddie Kingston loses. That's expected to Samoa Joe. And, they had a little thing afterward where Bryan Danielson was putting him over, saying that like nobody has as much heart as Eddie Kingston does. But hey, Eddie Kingston doesn't win the title. And, where do we go from here? He still has that match with Hook, I'm assuming, coming up.
Yeah, you imagine so. That'll probably be at World's End.
But they haven't really, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Hook hasn't wronged him as of yet, has he? Outside of just like, hey, thanks for teaming with me for a little bit, but I'm gonna go help Joe win the title. Like, they haven't actually had a moment of tension between them, have they?
No, I think Kingston's like referenced it in promos and stuff about like just Hook just blindsiding him by well, not like betraying him, but anything by going off in it. He's not technically betrayed him, but I think Hooks just talks about like him being like a means to an end, just like just being around for a little while, just to help me get back into the swing of things. But yeah, I don't think that. I think they will still have the match, but it's just like it's not as it's not going to be like a big blood feud type thing. A match at some point.
If I'm gonna guess, they don't have the match at the pay-per-view, but they have it in New York, where I think it would mean more to both of them.
Where is the next New York show?
Dynamite on 34th Street. I think.
Oh, already that. Oh, yeah, that's right. Of course, yeah, it's in the name.
Yeah, so that'd be a good point for it. But yeah, I'd say that's. Did we mention also that I'd say I don't know whether I just like blacked out for a half a second there, but we mentioned the Swerve and Hangman beating the Ops as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I thought that was I say that's good, and I say we know that that's clearly the direction one way or the other. Which one of them is going to be the end ups to fight Joe for the title, and as I wasn't like super. This match wasn't like the most amazing thing, but there is a limitation with Kingston now, especially like I don't know whether he'll ever get back to the level that he once was, but yeah, it's like the result is what it is. We'll see who steps up to Joe next, but yeah, I think overall the show was very good though for the wrestling and the moments, and it made it feel like this felt like a not like special episode of Dynamite, but it felt like it's worthy of having this subtitle attached to it when Moon is coming.
Shout out to Joe for the mid-match tribute to John Cena. He did the AA and the STF and did a salute mid-STF, and John Cena then put the salute on his Instagram. And I like moments like that where it's just, yeah, everybody respects everybody when it's a moment like this. And as far as the Brian thing that aired after the show and put on social media, that made me want to really root for Eddie. Like the fact that Brian bestowed that energy upon Eddie of like, you're the underdog, no one has more heart than you. That made me kind of want to go, okay, yeah, I want to see him win the title now. If I didn't before, I really do after seeing that.
I don't really necessarily feel like he needs to win that title, but at a certain point, you're in a Boy Who Cried Wolf scenario where you gotta either do it or you gotta stop talking about it. Because
so I think
I get annoyed with the whole like you're perpetually one step away for 20 years. And then you just go, it never happened or something. Or when you wait until it's no longer interesting and then you pull the trigger. And then when people go, I don't care about it anymore. Then you're like, see, we should have never done it to begin with. And it's like, no, that's not the same as if you, like, if the whole thing's to build up Brock Lesnar for Roman Reigns to beat him and then you take 6 years for him to beat him. Yeah, no wonder nobody gave a shit, you know?
And then people don't care because Roman's actually accomplished more without needing to beat Lesnar.
Right.
That's another thing. I look at it more like a Mick Foley. Like, he doesn't need to be champion, but I think the fans need him to be champion for a little bit at some point. Like, it's a fun win because, like, that's the fans' guy. Like, that he's the everyman that people want to see overcome.
If you had to pick, you go with either Eddie Kingston wins the title and Darby Allin never does, or Darby Allin does and Eddie Kingston never does. Who'd you go with?
Darby should win the title.
Personally, Darby. Like for me, Darby. For most people, they'd probably say Eddie, but I'd say Darby every time.
I think the Eddie ship is sailed a bit. I think if he hadn't suffered the injury and was able to continue on from his peak a little while ago, then I would agree that same route. But I think everyone now kind of sees Eddie at a certain level now, and he had his big moments with winning the Continental Classic and holding that Triple Crown title and winning the Ring of Honor World Championship. So he's had his big moments now. I just don't think that I don't think there's enough further now for him to win the world championship. I think he's just, he's a guy that people get behind every now and again, but I don't think that, like, people saying, oh, he must win the world championship, or you really desperately want him to win the world title at some point. It's like, okay, we need to move on at a certain stage.
Moving on to our last topic here. We have to correct something that's been talked about a lot recently and all over the place. The idea that John Cena would be opening the show for Saturday night's main event, that became the big talking point for, past bunch of days. And then out of nowhere, it's just like, yeah, it's not. And, that goes to show that, sometimes these things do have to be taken with a grain of salt. I have to rewrite some prediction stuff where I had put out there, if they started off, then that makes no sense and blah, 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 blah. But it's the right call. He should not be having a match with Gunther and then switching over to the NXT people. It's just all the reasons we talked about it on the predictions. There's no way of doing that doesn't lead to some kind of problems. And they are not on NBC, so they don't have that cutoff, that exactly 10 o'clock like they did with Goldberg. They can continue his speech however long that's going to be, which guarantees at this point that this is going to be a 3-hour show at the very least. And then, he rides off into the sunset and it ends with John Cena's final match. That's the way that it should be.
Yeah. I listened to him with Chris Van Vliet, and I could swear to God, he said, yeah, I'm opening, but maybe he said, I want to open. But he even said the whole thing about, hey, it's not just about me, it's about, let's show what the future can do. I think this makes more sense, and it definitely feels more logical, and like, you're not topping Cena's last match, so you need to go out with Cena's last match. Like, even in our podcast, I was saying, if he's opening, he might as well just stay out there for the rest of the show on commentary, because you can't top Cena's last match. And it's good to know that he won't. I hope he's given all the time he needs to say his farewell. I really genuinely think he's earned whatever the hell he wants. And I hope it's a good show.
So, of course, obviously, with the setup that we normally have here, we've got the pay-per-view post-show. It's not a pay-per-view, but technically, kind of is. I mean, yeah, it's a pay-per-view. It's Peacock, yeah. I'm thinking again that it's the NBC Universal thing.
It's not a pay-per-view if you're in the UK, but even,
So the UK gets it on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And we still don't know what's happening with the library. They still are like, well, we might have something to announce in Q1. So whether that ends up being we've made a deal with Netflix and we're going to keep everything there, or we've made a deal with ESPN, or more than likely the super annoying thing of we've made a deal with this completely other thing. And if you want to watch Raw, you have to have Netflix. If you want to watch the main event roster stuff, it's ESPN. If you want to watch the other stuff, it's Peacock. And if you want to watch the old content, then go to Apple or whatever the hell. There is a chance that YouTube ends up being the option for that. And they could even be shitty enough that they could do the whole that's locked behind the YouTube subscription thing too. They could always do that.
My thing is still, I don't even think Netflix has the Raw Vault completed yet, and it's not a matter of how many people are really going back to watch old episodes of Raw. It should be there. We had full access. You went from having full access to something to not. It's just not the way things should go, but what do I know?
I mean, I can speak on behalf of my wife for the whole cataloging and doing the asset management and all the other records and everything like that. If you got somebody that did the right metadata and you got somebody who has things organized or whatever, it really shouldn't be that difficult to just switch things over. So hire the right people. and then you can get that done in almost no time. And that's what it should be, because nobody should pay for a service that doesn't have everything ready to go.
Yeah, so they have 12. They have only up to 12 years of the 32 years of Raw. They don't have. There's plenty of full years missing, and plenty of those being in the 2000s. So there's that. Terrible.
Well, that's all I got down for the hot tags. Any other kind of topics you guys can think of?
Nothing extremely like, oh, we need to talk about this, but I did think this was funny. I wanted to just ask you guys. I read in an interview that Bryan Danielson, he said he hadn't watched any of Cena's retirement tour because he's in an era of his life where he's just consuming less media. So unless he's watching AEW because he's at the show, or I think he said like just listening to the occasional news, like that's all the media he gets. Like he said he did a straight 13-hour drive in total silence. And Bryan Danielson's such a fascinatingly weird individual. And
I don't just listen to music that you like.
No, it's
you're
really,
gonna raw dog the whole 13 hours.
I'm experimenting with less media. The only times there wasn't silence was when my wife called, I got an AEW call, or when I called my mom. So think about that. It's just very fascinating. I think I could see, of the three of us, maybe Callum pulling it off. But even then, I don't think you could do just total silence for 13 hours.
I know, I need to have like a podcast or headphones or watching a YouTube video or something like that. I can't go a 20-minute bus ride without listening to something. Like,
right.
That's and also like if he's on a flight, whether then he's not in silence, because like there must be loads of things going on that's like making noise.
Well,
in the meantime.
He said that was in particular was a 13-hour drive. The only media he says he's consuming is the AEW shows he watches and the books he reads. But that's it.
Oh, he definitely shouldn't be reading if he was driving. But even then, like an audiobook, like you can do that.
No,
or you can just be like, if you're, I don't know, there's days where I'm working, like, for anybody that's unaware of my horrible sleep schedule, I basically go to bed at like 6 a.m, and for hours and hours, it's silent, or as silent as it can be up here in New York. And there are stretches where I'll be working on something. Like 2 nights ago, I was working on some of the Absolute Power Rangers stuff, which if you don't know what that is, then of course check out the Blueprint Project and everything with Absolute Power Rangers. I haven't put up stuff about it, but trust me, there's a shit ton of work that I've been doing. There's a stretch of time where I was working on that for, say, 2 hours, and it was just silence. I didn't have music playing or whatever, but I'm also, very deep in like the creative bubble of sitting there, like mapping stuff out and writing stuff and getting dialogue involved and all. But if I'm like sitting there working on editing graphics for the next episode of the podcast or whatever, I'm putting on a YouTube video. I'm listening to some of the music that I've loved for my entire life, or some new music. I've been obsessed with the song City of Echoes by Neon Dreamer lately. So if you're into synthwave, check out Neon Dreamer. That's a great one. Neon Memories is a great song from them.
I want to believe I did that to you, but I can't say for sure if I've infected you with the synthwave.
I mean, it's always been a thing for me, but every once in a while you'll send me a song and it'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going to add that to the list too. Also a big fan of AI covers lately. A lot of things like Wildflower from Billie Eilish, 1980s synthwave rock cover for that from Retroscope is really cool. There's a Bring Me to Life Motown soul cover that I think rocks. It's like, I don't know. I don't feel like I need stuff around all the time to keep my mind busy, but after a while, it gets, I don't want to be in my own head. And on a 13-hour drive, I couldn't possibly. There's no way. Like, I'm going through tons of music. I'm listening to a podcast or two or something. If I'm on a flight, for instance, I try to sleep on the flights just because I barely sleep as it is. And if I'm going to be stuck there, I might as well try. But if I'm not, I'm downloading some YouTube videos ahead of time. I'm listening to the music that I have on my phone just because I can't get connected because no friggin' airline has any Wi-Fi anymore that works. Or I'm, using the in-flight thing and watching a movie or something. I watched Ferris Bueller on a flight last year. I was like,
Was that your first?
That was the first watch of Ferris Bueller, and I was like, this is a good movie. I like this. Sometimes you are in a good spot with that.
I'm always consuming media, like whether it's, an audiobook or, I've got, my Donkey Kong lo-fi in the background. Yeah. There's something going. The most I've been not is because I'm currently seeing someone and she's just like, okay with, no, we don't need anything on. So I've gotten a little better at it because I have to. But when I'm by myself, there's something on. I'm not going to be in my own head. Are you crazy?
It's not a good time there.
No, it's not.
I sit there in the middle of silence, and it's after a few minutes, I'm just kind of like, no, stop thinking about these things. And then, how about I put on I don't know, even like old wrestling themes or something like that. Like it's something to break the chain. But anyway, I hope that this podcast is that for some people. Maybe people tune in when they're on their way to and from work and they listen to us, or they just put us on in the background or whatever it is. If that's the case, let me know. I'm curious. Do you listen to us because you sit down and actually like, I'm going to take some time, or is this more like background noise or something? As long as you're listening to us, I appreciate it. And I also appreciate those comments below, and make sure that you are also doing the other things mentioned before about hitting the like button and subscribing and making sure that you tune in to the post show for tomorrow night. So if you're interested in following anything else under A Mango Tree, go to amangotree.com. You'll find the link tree and list of everything that's going on there. Fanboys Anonymous related, Smark Out Moment related, and on my own personal stuff. And you should also be following Callum and Rog too.
I guess I go with you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky with Master14. Check out the power rankings every single Saturday over on smarkoutmoment.com. Well, no, yeah, and where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. So be sure to see some things. I guess it will happen before the Saturday night's main event, but to see where everything's standing right now. And then you can check out the Fantasy League, which will be impacted by the results of Saturday night's main event, see how our rosters are doing, and who's picking up points at that show and any other show.
And you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. You can check out everything I've done under a mango tree. You can check out everything I've ever done in wrestling media. There's plenty of articles with my name on it through the years. And that's it for me now.
Saying Callum and Rob instead of Rob and Callum, three guys off, right?
No. So what happened was, I wasn't going to address this until we got out the air. What happened was, you totally cut out for me for about a minute. So I just was like, oh, did I lose them? And then I heard Callum start talking, and then I realized, okay, I must have just cut out for a second.
Discord, not a fan. What are you doing lately?
Yeah, it's the second time.
Hopefully it holds up for tomorrow's post show, because that's going to be the next time you guys are going to be hearing from us. And before you know it, we're going to start getting into the end of the year awards, because we got to start recording them next week. So that'll be I'm still not my lists aren't fully formulated yet, and it's been pretty tough. I've to be honest, a lot of these categories I don't know who to pick. And it's not just like, oh, I've got 50 options, because I know who do I pick out of my my options there. A lot of them is I can't think of a single soul.
Right.
So we're going to find out how that ends up playing out next week or so. And in the meantime, just, do your thing. Stay tuned, and we will see you when we see it. But adios for now. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.